AMD's been doing this weird thing. I guess like Nvidia does it too, where they have like two things that have very similar product names, but they're not the same thing. Like, you know, the RTX 3050 6GB and the 8GB, and the RTX 3060 12GB and 8GB, and the 12GB version and the 6GB version of the 2060. Right? Oh, and even the 1060. You can even think about the 3 gig or 6 gig 1060. They're all different cards. They're not just different in VRAM. They have like different shading units, different amount of shading units, different amount of CUDA cores. Sometimes even different clock speeds. Like, they're not the same device, but they're sold under the same name. So the naming scheme of the Ryzen chips on mobile is really fucking confusing. I had my first gaming handheld PC, which has been sold off now, and I hope the new owner likes it. Hopefully, I thought it was pretty neat. I just wanted something stronger. So my first gaming handheld PC was the AYN Loki Mini Pro, which was a Ryzen 3 7320U. Hey, that sounds like a Ryzen 7th gen chip, right? So like the 7th gen chips are RDNA, what RDNA 3 graphics and Zen 5, right? Zen 5 CPU cores? That's pretty good. This one's not. This one's not. Ryzen 3 7320U. So Ryzen 7000 by name. Zen 2 cores. Zen 2 CPU cores and RDNA 2 graphics. That's what's in it. And I think that's like what they're doing with like the Legion Go S, or like the Legion Go S. I think it's supposed to be halfway Zen 3. It's supposed to be like Zen 3 plus cores with RDNA 2 graphics. Which is weird because it's a new chip, but it's using old fabrication. Right, like, so if that's what keeps the cost down, because I think the Steam Deck is Zen 2 cores and RDNA 2 graphics. Zen 2 was released way before RDNA 2. Okay, so these two, the GPU and CPU architectures are not close to each other. It's a custom fab chip. And I think they're doing the same thing with the Legion Go S, which will more than likely be essentially a stronger version of a Steam Deck. Because if it's going to have Zen 3 plus cores and an RDNA 2 GPU, surely they won't make anything weaker than the Van Gogh chip, right? The Van Gogh had 8 CUs, and they were RDNA 2 CUs. So, like, it was right under the 680M. Am I thinking of that right? Yeah, it was right under the 680M, which was RDNA 2's flagship mobile GPU, iGPU. So I would call it like a 670M or something, right? Because the 660M is only 6 CUs. So the Van Gogh has 8, and the 780 or 680, apologies, has 12. And it's the next step down. It's the only step down, really, because I don't. The lowest one's like the 610M, which existed in the Loki Mini Pro. It exists in all. It's the weakest RDNA 2 graphics that exist, and it's also in other mobile chips like the 7520U. Also sounds like a 7000 series chip, but it's not. Into RDNA 2. That's actually really similar to the Steam Deck architecture now that I think about it. Maybe it's not so custom after all. Anyways, yeah, that's what I'm expecting to be in like the Legion Go S. And like, I don't need that because I already have something stronger, right? Like the base Legion Go is surely the base Legion Go that's already out now is going to be stronger than Legion Go S. Legion Go S is supposed to maybe use to break into the lower end of the market, the cheaper end of the market, because the only thing that's around the price of the Steam Deck is the ROG Ally Z1, which has a 740M. It's using the Ryzen 5 7640U, using that, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not even for sale anymore. I don't think Asus is manufacturing that version of the Asus ROG Ally anymore. They're only making the Z1 and the Ally X. They're no longer making the Z1 Extreme and the Ally X. Apologies. They're no longer making the Z1 Extreme. I mean, the base Z1. Which sucks because the base Z1 for its lowered price, which I think the lowest I saw it brand new at Best Buy before they started only selling open box models, was $400. That's like the same price as the Steam Deck. maybe a little bit weaker on the GPU end, but significantly stronger on the CPU end and a more modern architecture. So maybe, just maybe, it'll get more Windows graphics updates. The only thing that could potentially fill that gap now is the Legion Go S. At least the Windows version, right? I mean, SteamOS version, Steam works their magic, and they have some sort of wizardry going on in Linux that makes games run that probably shouldn't run on architecture and hardware that it shouldn't run on, and I'm happy about that. But some people prefer Windows. Like, yeah, you could call someone a freak for preferring Windows, but until Linux has full anti-cheat support, where I can just play whatever the fuck I want and don't have to say, oh, well, I just don't want to play games with invasive anti-cheat. Like, stop lying. You want to play them. You just don't want to deal with the invasive anti-cheat, and your computer won't let you deal with the invasive anti-cheat, so you can't play it. I'm not really too worried about the Legion Go 2, which we're assuming is going to have like the Z2 Extreme chip. That's going to be the next generation flagship. It's going to be using like the 880M, which is slightly stronger than the 780M. Probably not by much. I think the benchmarks say it's something like 15% stronger. Like, yeah, it's like an uplift, but like you're on a big screen, and you're already I mean, the Legion Go is a big screen, but I guess the Ally, if they make an Ally 2, wouldn't be as big of a screen. You're on a big screen, and you're probably at least trying to push 1080p or 1200p. Like, it won't matter too much. It's gonna bench around the, I could check, I guess it probably benches somewhere around the GTX 1650 or 1650 Super. Surely it's not as good as a 1660 Ti or a 1660 Super. It can't be that good. So I'm gonna assume it's like a 1650 Super, maybe a little below. Oh, you know what? No, it can't be. The 1660 Super is actually 1650 Super is actually pretty good. It's just stuck to 4 gigs of VRAM. Not that bad. Now that I think about it, maybe it's somewhere in between those two. Because the 780M was very close to benching right under a 1650 already. Benchmarks don't tell the whole tale, though, because newer architectures, more optimized and refined, and of course, new software suites, right? So the FSRs and the frame generations and the AFMFs of the world really push a lot of these chips that should be super weak into being chips that are really good. Especially for mobile computing at 15 to 30 watts. We could even go, like, let's say 10 watts. Let's be realistic. Some games can run on these chipsets, the Z1, the Z1 Extreme, even the MSI Claw's new chip, the Lunar Lake ones, all the way down from something like, let's say, let's be generous and say 8 watts all the way up to like 32. That's really good. That is very power efficient performance. I don't know how else to put that. For the efficiency, the performance you're getting is stellar, is absolutely immaculate. I don't think we've had anything this good ever. This is the new age of computing, which I'm glad we're finally here. I mean, maybe it'll start to stagnate and slow down a little bit more, but the fact that we've already gotten to the point where you can play some older PS4 style and Xbox One style AAA games in the palm of your hands is insane. That is so good. Even some modern titles that aren't AAA, I won't call like something like Remnant 2 AAA, runs on my handheld. I need to re-download it and show you guys. Maybe I'll do some like Legion Go benchmarks of my own volition. Maybe I'll try to find some games that other people haven't benchmarked on Legion Go, and I'll do them with my ghetto hand cam setup and just talk about the smoothness of the experience and whatnot. Oh, my coffee smells so good right now. I'm excited for the future of gaming handheld PCs, but I'm not looking at this next generation really, right? Like the MSI Claw AI8 Plus, what a fucking mouthful. It's like barely benching better than the Z1 Extreme. So benching better than last generation's chip when you're this generation's chip doesn't look great. It's like Radeon trying to catch up to Nvidia constantly. Like Radeon trying to catch up to the GeForce team over and over and over and over. What is this? Sure. Nice. I got a booster. Right, they're constantly trying to catch up to the GeForce team. So almost always their graphics card is slightly better than last generation's graphics card for this generation's price. And the AI8 kind of feels the same way, right? It feels like, okay, like if you have an Ally X, what do you need the AI8 AI 8 Plus? What do you need it for? Other than maybe being a fucking tinker and experimenter and you're just like, ooh, new tech. Or you're a consumer and you buy too much product. I don't see a valid reason to choose it over something you already have now. Right? And I say that I'm going to say the same thing probably about the Z2 Extreme. The 890M is extremely strong and very good, but it's not as power efficient. At least in the AI chips, it doesn't have the same draw that the older generation chips are having now, because you can get them on a discount, or if you bought them brand new, then you're getting tons. You've already gotten tons of value. You don't really need to spend now possibly $900, possibly $850 for the thing you spent $600 for, $700 for last generation, which would have been a year ago, 2 years ago. I'm looking at like the next generation after Lunar Lake and the next generation after the Z2 chip. So Z3, Z2 Plus, whatever it's going to be called. Those the next refresh, the thing right after this one, is probably going to be, if anything, the biggest generational leap we're going to get for a while. For a long while. And I'm not necessarily upset that it's going to slow down, but I just want to see where its peak is going to be before there's another big generational leap. I don't think that it's going to be with the Z2 Extreme and the Z2G or these next generation of Legion Go's. I am looking at them, but I'm not looking to pick them up. I'm just looking at them as pieces of tech that are interesting as we develop further into the PC gaming handheld space. I'm very excited. And hopefully it's a big enough leap for NVIDIA and, for Intel and AMD, right? I've seen benchmarks of the AI 8 Plus, and their graphics cards on the desktop side seem to be doing well, at least with the B580. Hopefully they're making a B770. That'd be cool. The RTX 5090, I don't ever care about flagship Halo products because they're not the most applicable. Most people who are playing on PCs aren't going to use a flagship desktop PC. Like, they're extremely expensive almost always, right? I think I have a sneaking suspicion that when they showed the new Witcher game, that it was rendered on an RTX 5090, and the same thing with the new Virtua Fighter. Because Jensen Huang talked about how Virtua Fighter pushed NVIDIA to become the company they are today because of Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter made them have to start creating 3D accelerators because it was necessary for the graphics overhaul or the graphics presentation of Virtua Fighter. It was so far advanced for the arcades of the time that they needed to make better chips. And NVIDIA took that up, right? And now we see Virtua Fighter 6, and Jensen Huang's talking during their presentation. So, and it said rendered on an unannounced RTX GPU. I'm assuming that was rendered on a 5090, and it looks very good. Almost lifelike, better than any of the Yakuza games, and it's made by the same developer. So there's new tech on the horizon for desktop, but I don't know if that same tech is going to move over to handhelds anytime soon. It's just, like, flagships are cool, but flagships are not... They're not reasonable for most people, right? Like, the RTX 4090 is anywhere between $1,600 and $2,000 street price. That is a lot of money to spend on a graphics card. Even if for the next 10 years you're going to be able to use that graphics card because it was a flagship last year, it still feels as if you're better off getting something more consumer grade, like a 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super. Right? You probably don't want to go lower than that. You don't want to go. You don't want an RTX 4060. I'm on a 4050 laptop, but I mean, I'm on a laptop and I'm also poor, so I don't care. I can work with what I have. Like, it's not a big deal for me. But if you're looking for something that's going to last you a pretty decent while, you're going to go probably for something closer to mid-range or even upper mid-range. The 5090 is an interesting idea of a card. If we look at the trailer for... Was it called The Witcher 4? I don't want to say The Witcher 4, and that's not what it's called. Anyways, if it was called The Witcher 4, I think it looked really good. And it was on an unannounced RTX GPU. So, damn. And if that's pre-render... If that pre-render is also going to be the same, let's say, graphics engine as the gameplay, like if it's going to be all in one engine and there's not pre-rendered cutscenes, kind of dope looking. kind of exciting. But exciting mainly for the architecture, not for the actual power of the 50 series. Unannounced RTX graphics card. Yeah, that's all we know about it. Probably the 5040. That'd be so funny, right? If it's like the 5040 or the GT. No, it couldn't be the RT40, 5040. Darn it. It would be RTX. It is cool to think about the lowest end more than the higher end, right? Because mobile, oh my gosh, right? That'd be so sick. Also, by the way, $2,000 laptop with the RTX 5040. Get your wallet ready. Jensen Huang needs you to pay up so he can buy more leather jackets. Oh no. The more you buy, the more you save. That is the crux of the argument of not buying entry level. Right, the RTX 3050 60GB, probably not. Like when you look at the RTX 3050 60GB, it is an RTX graphics card, so it has access to DLSS. That is its only purpose on the market, is that it has access to DLSS. That's it. Because it's about as strong as something like a 1650 Super or a GTX 1660. Those are Turing architecture. Those architectures are almost 6 years old now. Wait, 5 years old now. Sorry. My bad. 2019. Those architectures are almost 5 years old. 6 years old. And that's what our entry level is looking like now. Our entry level now is looking like the entry level from 5 years ago. What's happening? What's going on? Like, that's not good value for the vast majority of people. Its only salvation is that it has DLSS, which those graphics cards don't have access to, which means you can cheat extra performance out. You're not really getting extra performance, you're cheating the extra performance. Entry-level RDNA graphics cards don't exist. DLSS, yeah, DLSS is very good. I will admit that now. Like, it is a very good software. But it shouldn't be what carries the newer generations of budget GPUs, right? We don't want our GPUs carried by DLSS frame generation and DLSS 3 and 4.0. We want them to have some realistic amount of raster performance on their own, and they don't seem to have it. Like, I have an RTX 4050 laptop. That's what I'm using right now. It uses 35 watts of power max. Either 35 or 45 watts of power. Can I have Alt plus R and C? It's using 28 watts right now, but I think it maxes out at 35 watts. Consumers just buy the, yeah, that's the problem. Look, I'm a consumer. Look, let me I gave my old one to my wife. I had an off-brand, well, it wasn't really off-brand, but an AYN device. AYN makes PC gaming handhelds, or they did, and they make Android-based emulation handhelds. I had one of their Windows ones. It was the one, it was the one under the top, and it shit out on me. It was giving me problems on Windows, and I kept getting a bunch of error codes. It kept crashing, and it was a very frustrating experience. But shout outs to my friend Mean Buffalo. He gave me I'm using his gamer tag, not his real name. I don't want to dox anybody. He gave me a SSD to put Chimera OS on. I put Chimera OS on it, and it had no problems after that, right? I used it. There was a few games that ran a little weird because the Proton layers and stuff, but very console-like experience, super easy to use, and I had access to my device again. It was working, but I'm a consumer, so I gave that one to my wife, and I changed the colors. I had green analog stick and green side lights because it has RGBs. Linux is a pain in the ass for RGBs. You have to actually go into the command console and override it on the motherboard. It's fucking weird. Man, that took a long time. I bought a Legion Go. That's why I was talking about the gaming PC handheld space specifically. Is because if you already own a flagship from this generation, you probably don't need to look at the Z2 Extreme chip ones. You don't need to look at the ROG Ally 2. You don't need to look at the Legion Go 2, the Legion Go S. They're not going to be applicable to you. Because for the money, you could just stick with what you have and you're getting good value, right? These are the flagships of handheld PCs. So this is like getting an RTX 4090. I have an RTX 4090 in my hand. I don't need to get the RTX 5090 when they make the Legion Go 2 come CES in like 2 weeks. It would be nice. But, like, I'm not gonna spend $900. Well, I don't need to. I will say a lot of people who is definitely gonna make the certified SteamOS unveiled at CES. Yeah, I think that's the most interesting part. Looking at the fact that they're going to have a SteamOS certified version of their budget one. I would also really like to see, ads are about to start, unfortunately. I would really like to see a SteamOS version of their big one, right? If they're gonna do a Legion Go 2, we need a Legion Go 2 Steam Edition. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Give us the best of the best to compete with people putting Bazite on their Legion Go 1 and their ROG Ally X. Why are we not getting that? That would be powerful. Like, I think Steam is more focused on trying to get people in on the budget end because they're going to make money off of you buying on Steam, right? But Lenovo needs you to buy their devices because they make money on the front end, on you buying the device, not on the back end of you buying product, right? The Steam Deck is a loss leader. The Legion Go S cannot be a loss leader. It can't. Especially because they're buying, yeah, Steam is very strategic. They're buying the license to use SteamOS from Valve. So they're spending more money making this SteamOS certified version, but they may not be making a lot of money by selling it for cheaper because it's not going to be the highest end, the most luxurious Rolls Royce of our, like, I think that this is like the Legion Go, in my opinion. I don't have a ROG Ally X. I've touched a ROG Ally, but not the Ally X. I think this is like the most luxurious feeling handheld PC right now. I don't know if that's gonna stay that way. Like when maybe a ROG Ally 2 comes out, the MSI Claw AI 8 Plus. God, that's a long fucking name. But right now, I feel like Legion Go's like, maybe if it's not the best performing because it's got a really big screen, the battery life's kind of shit. But just holding the device, having it in your hand and playing on it feels way more luxurious than the others. So not having an experience like this, or SteamOS, native, not having to put Bazite or Chimera OS or Allo ISO, is a real fucking shame. A true fucking tragedy. That would shake up the game. I don't want to see another budget in low-end handheld. I want to see the best of the best. Running like the best of the best. That's what I want to see. How the fuck do I get out of here? Oh, I think I have to just teleport to Edgeville. I don't know if I can cross over that way. Let me try. That's what I want to see. Because if there's anything that Steam can't do, knowing they're trying to build a loss leading device, is make their devices too expensive and feature rich. Like, I'm not saying that the Steam Deck doesn't have good features, because it does. The Steam Deck has great battery life. Oh, cool. I need to fucking close this before I accidentally drop it. It has great battery life. It has trackpads, a phenomenal touchscreen haptic experience now. It has some of the best software experience, but it doesn't have detachable controllers. It has an OLED screen, right? It has an OLED screen, but it doesn't have detachable controllers. It doesn't have an extremely high refresh rate, like 90's cool, but it's not 120, it's not 144. It doesn't have RGBs for the losers like myself who really like... I just like green, man. Okay, look, I don't really give a fuck about RGB. I just want green. Like, look behind me. I like green. I like green RGBs. I'm sorry. I like G. I don't need RB, by the way. G. So if you guys make like a Steam Deck 2 and put green lights in it, that'd be cool. You can also put orange. I understand. But it's not the most luxurious of the handheld PCs. It looks like a piece of tech. Like, it looks like a piece of kit. And that's fine, but some people want an experience above that. And for them, Steam will probably never make one. Valve will probably never make that. So licensing out SteamOS to the manufacturers who are making those, like the ROG Ally X, MSI, so let's just say Asus, MSI, Lenovo, so they can put it on their higher end, not just their lower end handhelds, would be of great benefit to everyone, not just the budget gamers. Because I think right now, maybe they're only thinking about the budget gamers. Because the budget gamers probably want something slightly stronger than their Steam Deck, but don't want to deal with the hassle of Windows, right? You could get yourself a Loki Max used for like $300 and hope to God your Windows experience doesn't blow up. And if it does, you can just put Chimera OS, Hollow ISO, Bazite, won't matter, Bodicera if you're using it for emulation. And you'll have a better than Steam Deck experience because you have the 680M and a 6-core and an 8-core 16-thread CPU instead of the opposite, right? Instead of having a... What's the word I'm looking for? Instead of having a 4-core 8-thread, right? And 16 gigs of RAM. The 1X player devices, there's an older 1X player with the 6800U. That's 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, and once again, that's 680M, right? Those already exist, but they're so fucking expensive. They're so expensive. They keep people away from them, which sucks for the regular consumer, but it's really good for the enthusiast, right? The 1X player at some point was like a $900 device, and it's only narrowly better than the Steam Deck. Like, it's really not that much better than the Steam Deck. I'm going to be quite honest. The 680M isn't that much more performant, but you're getting significantly more CPU performance. They come with higher RAM amounts. Those are the things that matter. Where is... Okay, they're there. Those are the things that are keeping people in the ecosystem of SteamOS and keeping people in the ecosystem of like cheap budget handheld PCs. Yeah, Microsoft is so incompetent at times. Thoughts on Steam licensing SteamOS for third-party handhelds, like Steam machines. Coming for Xbox's last few lunch dollars. I think with the compatibility for anti-cheats not being there yet, it's going to take a few years for SteamOS and for Valve to just steal all of PC gaming away from Microsoft. It's impossible right now because there's just not enough compatibility. Once we get that compatibility, or once Protons are better, or Easy Anti-Cheat and Vanguard and whatever other fucking anti-cheats exist, maybe lax up a little bit for Linux gamers, it's going to take a little bit. I think if Xbox just made a gaming-focused Microsoft like Windows experience, like a Windows 11 gaming, Windows 11G, right? Just give us like a gaming front end and gaming optimized drivers and things like that, and gaming optimized lack of bloatware. Let's just call it lack of... What if we just removed anti-cheat? You can't do that. You can't do that. The problem with removing anti-cheat is people are assholes. People are terrible people. They're not good. So you're going to end up with situations like the older Call of Duty games where they had very relaxed anti-cheats, and eventually they took away the anti-cheats, and now people are getting DDoS, and people are getting their IP's address leaked and their home addresses leaked just by trying to queue up for a game of old Call of Duty. And there's hackers all over the place. Like, I think hackers all over the place and aimbotters and all that is like the least of their worries. It's more about the internet security. You don't have real internet security without anti-cheat, unfortunately, because people are real fuckers. People are real scumbags, and they're just any way to get you knocked offline or to get your information out there so you can get doxxed or DDoS. That's what they're trying to do. And it's kind of insane that gamers are some real fuckers. Like, who thinks that that's okay? I've never once thought, this guy beat me at a video game, let me find out his home address and post it on the internet. That's like never crossed my mind. But it's happening in a lot of those older games. And you could say like, oh, just don't play those games. Well, I want to. And I shouldn't be scared to play those games because they don't have anti-cheat, or be scared to play those games because they're not an enjoyable experience online, or they're an unsafe internet experience now. That's not good, right? So like anti-cheat keeps us safe in a way. Like, you can say, oh, use a VPN, use this, that, the other to keep yourself safe on the internet. But why should you have to jump through that hoop to keep yourself safe on the internet? There's kids playing video games. Like, I'm not a big fan of kids on the internet, like on social media and shit. But as a person who played video games as a kid, it was my escape. It was my salvation. It was so fun. I still do it now as an adult, as an almost 30-year-old. I'm 29 years old. And I would hate for kids to not be able to play on the internet because we remove anti-cheats, and now they're unsafe on the internet. Like, that's not something I want. So for those games like the Fortnite, the Call of Duties, the Robloxes, those games, like, they need anti-cheat. They need internet safety. And I don't think it should be taken into the hands of the government or anything. I think that like a strict ban system would really help. A more targeted and ready team, like focused team that is ready to take out hackers and people doxing and DDoSing. Thoughts on the Aura Santa hat in RuneScape? I haven't even seen it. I haven't done anything Christmas oriented. Yo, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. I haven't done anything Christmas related on this game at all. I have the beanie from last year. I think this is from last year. The beanie and scarf because it was a beanie. That's the only reason why I grinded for it because in the username. I love beanies. Otherwise, I wouldn't even got this. I need to buy a beanie scarf matching set at some point. If it gets cold enough, I live in South Texas, it probably won't. But if it gets cold enough, I need one for the future.